Hi, this is Mike Brown, owner of Death Wish Coffee Company. Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast.
I love Jeff, but sweet and hot. Whoop, Mr. Motorama coffee.
Death Wish Coffee presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast. Get ready, the show's about to begin.
Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast. This is episode 122, if you're keeping track at home of those numbers. It is season 3, episode 18. I had to do math in my head for a second there. And as always, in your ear holes and maybe even in your eye holes, I am the incredible Jeff. And I would love it if you took a second and followed me on social media as well as the show. It's very easy to do. I am at Jeff Wish Coffee, and across all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, you can follow this very show and all of the amazing content we make right at Fueled by Deathcast. And this show would be nothing without the voice of death himself, Mr. Brock Powell. BrockVox.com for all your voice actor needs. He's the voice on this show and 1,000 voices out there in the world. And I love following his journey, again, at BrockVox across all social media. He's been doing some incredible stuff on his journey just to become the greatest voice actor ever. There'll be one day where people will say, who the hell even talks about Mel Blanc anymore? They're only going to talk about Brock Powell. It's probably a bunch of bullshit that I just said, but that's okay. We love Brock to death, and he is the voice of death right here on this show. And in almost everything we do here from Fueled by Deathcast, Brock Powell is a part of. And I love Brock. I love him so much. Hopefully I'm going to see him again soon this year.
Secret code unlocked. Discount of death.
It's that time of the show, once again, to remind you that if you want to go over to deathwishcoffee.com, you can save up to 12% of every single order by just typing in the secret code, discount of death, all one word, when you get to checkout. And that's good for everything on the site at deathwishcoffee.com. That's our coffee, our apparel, our merchandise, whatever you see there. Put it all in your cart. And then make sure to use discount of death at checkout, and you'll get 12% off your order for being a fan of this show. And if you want to be like one of the cool kids, you can use discount of Jeff, because I want that one to have a little bit more hits than actually discount of death. But again, all one word, discount of Jeff will get you 12% off as well, right on deathwishcoffee.com. I find lately I've been listening to a lot more podcasts. There's just so many podcasts out there, and it's just a lot of fun to listen to them. And I kind of split my time between music I love and podcasts that I love and new podcasts that I'm finding. And I like to take a couple seconds here to talk about some of friends of the show and podcasts that I'd love for you guys to check out as well. First up, friend of the show and guest from a previous episode, Chuck Fields, and his podcast, Your Online Coffee Break Podcast. It's really fun, short information every single week that he announces these new shows. He has special guests from the world of astronomy, of space, of the acting world, of the author world. Just awesome conversations that are bite-sized and easy to digest and just a lot of fun to listen to. He was recently down at Kennedy Space Center to watch the Falcon Heavy test launch and chronicled the entire thing on his podcast. And we talked about his love of podcasting in space on this very podcast, I want to say 20, 30 episodes ago. You can search Your Online Coffee Break Podcast right on this channel as well. But go follow his podcast. It's a lot of fun to listen to. And good luck to Chuck on all of the stuff that he's doing. Another podcast, actually, that just started this week is called Murder in the Rain. Murder in the Rain will be able to be found everywhere, but I'll put up a link, actually, in this show right here so you can go to their website and check out their very first episode, which might have an ad in there that you might recognize. But, it's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't even listened to the first episode yet, so we can all be new fans of this show together. It's obviously going to be a murder-centric podcast, and what's more fun than those? There's so many good ones out there now, and, the sky's the limit. Everybody can jump in and do something that fun, and I can't wait to dive into Murder in the Rain and all the fun that they're going to have talking about those cool topics. So definitely, let's all become fans right at the get-go of that new podcast. And finally, friend of the show, doing a webcast, not even just necessarily a podcast. You can find this in full video on YouTube. It's Zetro's Toxic Vault. Steven Souza from the band Exodus, who was just a guest on this show a handful of shows back, where we talked all about Exodus and the new record and all sorts of fun stuff. He got into the webcast game, and he is doing this really, really awesome show called Zetro's Toxic Vault. And you can find all the episodes right on YouTube, right at this link, which I'll put up in this show as well, if you're watching this show. And definitely go be a fan of his. It's a lot of fun to hear him just talk about all those awesome metal topics. And there's not enough of that anymore on the internet. So I'm glad that Zetro's, throwing his hat in the game and is doing that. It's really, really cool to see. So follow all those guys and always, be looking for new shows and new podcasts to find, because they're so much fun to listen to and to enjoy. That's why there's so many of them. I do want to take a second really quick to shout out another friend of this show, Mr. Titus Welliver. Titus Welliver is an incredible actor. Again, was a guest on this show just recently, and he is also plays the title character of the Amazon Prime series Bosch. And season 5 returns this Friday, April 19th. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to just sit down and probably binge the entire thing in a sitting, or maybe 2 sittings, and see exactly what Detective Harry Bosch gets into this season. It's going to be crazy. He's told me some stuff off the record that I can't wait to see play out on the screen. So if you're a fan, season 5 comes back this Friday, April 19th, and get that Amazon Prime subscription. This week, very, very special guest, and was honored to talk with underground innovator in hip-hop, Sadistik. Sadistik has been running this game now for quite some time and has such a unique style when it comes to this form of music. He's very personal and very stream of consciousness when it comes to writing his lyrics and putting them over some really interesting music and beats. And we talk about all of this on this week's episode, including details about his brand new record, Haunted Gardens, which comes out in just a few days on April 20th. And so you'll learn about all those details, where you can pick up that record, what makes him tick, and what fuels Sadistik to be such an innovator in the hip-hop genre. So mugs up this week for this week's Death Guest, Sadistik.
The Fueled by Death Guest.
I would love to start actually with your new record, and let's talk about that a little bit. Haunted Gardens, which is coming out April 20th, right as this episode's about to hit. And I just want to say you released the single Eden. It's excellent. And I've listened to some of the tracks off this record, and, everybody's talking about how this is... I mean, a lot of your press is talking about how this is like your most vulnerable record, and I really adhere to what I'm hearing. Like you're really bearing your soul, and I really think you should be proud of what you put out, because it's a killer record, and I'm so excited for it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Like I said, I love Eden. I love a couple of the other tracks that I've been digging that I want my listeners to hear too. 8.5 And I wanted to ask you about a track in specific. The track Alcoves is probably the most haunting track on that record. And it is just beautiful, but it's almost a conversation. Is that you, or is that a pre-recorded? Is that somebody else talking?
Yeah, so there's that pre-recorded clip that was sampled of where they're talking about Andy Kaufman, and that's produced by a guy named Killed Myself. Uplifting. But but yeah, and then I sang kind of the weird little like ghostly vocals, obviously. And there are 2 songs on that album that I made really, really quickly and then immediately loved and didn't touch it. And that's something for me is completely foreign. You know, I'm a super pedantic artist. I tinker a lot. I rework things. I'll like, you know, I like to like build it up and tear it down kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that song Alcoves and then another song Koi I made, like really quickly and then just immediately knew that was it. If I touch it anymore, it's not going to be what I want it to be.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's really awesome. I also read somewhere that you said you were working on a lot of the material for Haunted Gardens almost congruently as you were working on Solo Sessions too.
Yeah.
And both of those records are, at least to me, strikingly different in their emotional give and take.
Totally.
How do you compartmentalize that? If you're, how do you get from one headspace to the other and go back and forth?
The main thing is I prioritize the album. The all the best ideas and all the things that like when I start something and as long as it fits kind of the little checklist I have in my head of what tones or what colors this album feels like to me, then it always goes to the album, and then everything else I'll kind of set aside, and then I'll kind of switch gears and start fleshing that out and choosing what things I like. And then I'll find like themes to kind of sew together and maybe make like connections to the whole like solo premise. And then like over time there will be more Solo Sessions EPs. So like the themes will like hopefully be more obvious over time. But most of my energy was definitely towards Haunted Gardens. Solo Sessions 2 was mentally kind of a lot easier to pull off for me than Haunted Gardens was a lot more demanding.
Yeah. When and speaking again on to Haunted Gardens, sorry. When you're attacking a record like this, do you come up with the headspace, the theme, the emotional theme of it beforehand, or does the writing session kind of lend itself?
I'll sometimes have an idea of what I want it to be, but then it almost always comes out so different, and then partway along the way, I'll start to kind of like realize what I've been making, and then so usually. I'm sure it's different with everybody. For me, I'll have that really signature song moment where right when I make a certain song, I'll go, this is the fucking, whatever, like the archetype for the album. This is the colors to pull from. Mm-hmm. So for Haunted Gardens, I think that song was Eden. When I first made that, I was like, this is exactly the world I was looking for. With Altars, it was Free Spirits. Right when I made Free Spirits, I knew that was what the album would sound like. And then from there, I can kind of like fill in pieces where I'm like, oh, I want more slow, dreary stuff, or oh, there's too much dreary stuff. I need some like, I want a little bit of light to come in at this part of the album or whatever. So then I can start kind of like fleshing it, you know?
Yeah.
I always think in albums. I always think I'll think about songs or I'll think about a line or whatever. I'll like zoom into these little details, of course, but like every time I run something by my head, oh, is this line good enough? Is this hook worked? Is this blah, blah, blah? I always kind of like double check with whatever the project idea is in my mind.
Interesting. Was it surprising going through the journey of writing this record? Did it surprise you at all? Did anything surprise you coming out of it?
I didn't expect it to sound. When I first started writing it, if I could hear what it sounds like now, I would be very surprised. I'd be pleasantly surprised, but it's not what I knew I wanted to. I knew I felt pulled towards my. I don't want to say older style, but that's what people will call it when they hear it. My older style, which is a lot of some people's future style. Yeah. But yeah, I knew I wanted to kind of like go back to these like sadder, more introspective songs, less bangers, less fun stuff. I mean, I don't know about fun, but for me, fun to make, like stuff like Solo is more fun. I knew I wanted to do that, but I didn't expect it to really sound like this. I didn't expect it to be as stripped down as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And that kind of leads me back into like the beginning of your career. Where did this want to create music and to perform come from? Has that always been inside you, or did that kind of coalesce as you were writing, or?
I've always wanted to create things. My mom's a painter. I've always been drawn to those things, and I've always been wanting to do projects. Even when I was a little kid, I used to draw a lot and paint. Mm-hmm. And when I reflect back on that, I would never want to just make one thing. I always want to make a collection. I always want to make a book. I always want to make like these like grander things. And so now that I look back on that, I had this home video when I was a little kid, one of the only ones I have. And I have like across the floors all these drawings of monsters I would do, and I'm running up to my mom trying to get her to look at all the different monsters I drew. There's like 30 of them. And when I see that now, I'm like, it's kind of still what I'm doing, like as an adult. But yeah, I've always been drawn to it. If it wasn't that, if I didn't make music, if I didn't make rap, I'd make some other kind of music. If I didn't make, and not to like treat the culture like it's like you can discard it or whatever, but I adore rap, of course, but I just feel such a deep urge to make stuff, and it balances me out, and it rewards me so much mentally that like I just can't imagine not making anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think that's the sign of someone who, you know, really needs to. You need to create. You know, it's something that it's this need in your heart, and I think that's awesome. And speaking kind of like, you kind of brought it up a little bit, like your influences getting into it. I know that you are a fan of, you know, stream of consciousness poetry and that kind of thing, like Virginia Woolf and these things. But on the music side of it, did you gravitate more towards the rap, you know, genre in the beginning?
Yeah, when I first got into music in general, I wasn't into music as a kid until I heard rap, and then I was obsessed, and I just kind of I treated it very obsessively, and I kind of studied it. I would walk to the closest stores that had a rap section, and I would just kind of study it, or I would pester my brother. Hold on one second. My brother's 10 years older than me, and so he kind of put me on to everything. I remember the first time I heard Bone Thugs, or the first time I heard the Loonies, or things like this, and how excited I got. And so I would just ask him, you know, what's this? Can I listen to this? Can I listen to 8 Ball and MJG? And, you know, back in the fucking CD days, you had to find a way to get access to this music to even know it exists. You know, now you could find everything. It's like, oh, you're curious about black metal? Type it in. Here you go. Yeah, it's like, imagine finding that in the 90s. It's like, it's a completely different thing. So, yeah, I just kind of obsessively studied it. I remember my brother yelling at me, being like, all you fucking talk about to me ever is rap CDs. And I'm just like, it's not, and then, you know, fast forward 20 years, it's still the same shit.
Yeah.
For me, not for him. He grew up. I didn't.
Good. Growing up's overrated.
Yeah, I didn't grow up at all.
I gotta ask then the other side of that question. You had said, you know, if you always have had to create. If you didn't get into rap, you would have done something else. What do you think that something else would have been? What do you think that other genre of music that you would create?
I want to make movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, movies.
That's what I want to do. Yeah.
Awesome. Like from a director standpoint or a writer standpoint.
Yeah. I don't think I would have musically. The other thing I could see is maybe making some kind of folky stuff, but I don't. In music, my passion as a listener is just so loyal to rap. You know, I love metal. I love a lot of other stuff, but like the rap is just, it's so much deeper for me.
Yeah.
The genres. So I don't think I'd make another genre, but
movies.
Yeah, I'd always make something. I'd like to be in films. Is a big goal of mine.
So, okay, speaking of movies, I was just gonna say, you're a horror movie fan. Where did that come from? Are you like the old school horror movie, like the new school?
I'm obsessed. When I was a little kid, I told you my mom's a painter. My mom was also like, she'd read a lot of Stephen King and Dean Koontz and Peter Straub and shit like that. And so I would always kind of like dig in those. And I was really into Edgar Allan Poe when I was a kid, which I know sounds like a stereotype of myself, but I was just drawn to stuff and monsters, and I was always just drawn to the creepiest stuff I could find when I was a little kid. I loved scary stories to tell in the dark. Were really big on my childhood, and it just kept going. It didn't stop. Yeah, I remember my mom told me recently. She was like, I just thought you'd grow out of it, like these '80s horror movies and all the shit you're into. I'm like, no, just never did.
That's rad. Do you have a favorite that you gravitate towards?
I love Italian horror movies a lot. I really like that '70s like giallo, that '70s like giallo phase. I like exploitation films a lot. I like '70s movies because they were kind of mean spirited, and then I like a lot of kind of art house, foreign, highbrow, cunty stuff.
That's awesome, though. I mean, some of that stuff is.
Yeah,
Just...
I'm obsessed with cult film. I'm surrounded by it. All my posters and books and everything in here is like it's always like connected to that.
That's awesome. What do you think of the horror movie genre today? Do you think it's lacking, or do you think it's doing all right?
I think we're in a golden era right now. I think people are going to look back on this little era as a great one in horror, and I'm happy to see it.
That's awesome.
As someone who lived through the '90s,
Yeah.
where
Right.
it was really shitty, and the early 2000s were pretty fucking shitty too, and we had the whole like gore porn.
Yeah.
Like when Hostel was like the best thing you could find for a long time. But now I think we're in a. I think the elevated horror film is becoming a thing. It was, you get like, you sometimes see these auteurs make horror and they make the best ones, but they stood out. So things like Psycho, Carrie, The Shining, Rosemary's Baby, stuff like that, where they're made by like very highly regarded directors.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're getting elevated horror some more often from people who aren't acclaimed in drama. So it's like we're getting Hereditary, The Witch, shit like that. I think it's awesome. Honestly, I think last year might have been the best year in horror in decades. There's at least 10 good horror movies.
Yeah, and you're totally right. We're getting horror from the weirdest places now, but like I think that makes it refreshing and awesome because you're getting these new ideas. The Witch, for me, I think is the best horror movie that's came out in the last decade.
It's really good.
I am so impressed. On the other side of that, I'm so impressed with what Jordan Peele's been able to come out with Get Out, and I'm so excited for Us.
I already saw it.
Oh, you did? Oh, you lucky bastard. Was it great?
Yeah, my homie Danny Rocca, shouts to him. He got a pass from Universal. We went to this private screening of it.
It's as good as the trailers make it look?
No, the trailer's fantastic. That's one of the best trailers I've seen in years, for sure. Yeah. And I was really excited for it, and I did not like it.
Oh.
But I don't want to ruin it for anybody.
All right. I'll take that.
But I'm excited to see where he goes. You know, a lot of people are just kind of throwing this thing out where he's the best horror director of this generation, and there's potential to be, but it's a little early for that.
I think so too. Back on the music side of it, you in rap are doing something that's rare. You are, infusing your dark, your deep sensibility, your poetic sensibility into every album that you do, no matter what your kind of emotional thread that you're pulling on. And I think it's awesome and refreshing, and it's rare. But as rap as a genre, is there stuff that you listen to out there that you really dig, that you think is pushing the game?
Not particularly, but that doesn't mean that I don't think it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't have that like bitter mindset that a lot of rappers seem to. I think there's so much of every niche right now that whatever people's favorite flavor of rap is, that you could probably find things you like. And, as listeners, we should probably just be grateful for that, especially since we get it for free.
Yeah.
Which is still a novelty to me. But with that said, there's not someone that newer that comes to mind that I think's like really, that's really like blown my mind or done anything that I don't feel like I've heard before.
Yeah. I agree with this. I feel like
quality guys. There's a lot of guys who it's like, oh, they're dope, or they're you know, they have great taste in beats and melody, or there's guys who like push the pen a little harder than a lot of people used to. So I think some people tend to canonize the things that they heard when they're a teenager a little bit too much too. So I try to be honest when I go back and listen to some like golden era rap, and some of it holds up great. Some of it's even better than I ever remembered, and then a lot of it, it's like this really wasn't that dope. Like I just had a dumb young brain hearing it.
Yeah, and it was new. It was new to everybody, so it was like this shiny penny that was like, oh, I gotta check that out.
It means everything.
On your writing style, when you are coming up with, you know, your album or even, you know, just songs for your album, are you attacking it? Does it all come from like a singular idea? Do you just like hit an emotional thread and then go, okay, I'm going to run with that? Or is it a line or is it a hook that's hitting you? Or do you start with the beat? Where does your process kind of coalesce?
Well, it depends if we're talking about making an album or making a song. If I'm making a song, I try to be as kind of like free and wishy-washy as I can when I'm, you know, either writing or trying to find the right beat or working with the producer or whatever it is. I try to be like really open-minded to what things grab me, but also very specific because if it doesn't make something shake in me, then it's like definitely not gonna hit somebody else. So keep skipping, you know what I mean? Like, but if it's an album, I kind of keep that umbrella idea in mind, and I have like a little bit of like a rule set I build for myself, you know. Like Haunted Gardens, I knew I wanted it to be shorter. I knew I wanted it to be a little bit more stripped down, less vocal layers, things like this. So I kind of like tried to adhere to that, and because I knew overall it would be different enough for my other albums. Even things like transitions between songs or song order, you know, like I try to have this really careful balance between being different from my other stuff, but keeping threads through it where they know that I did it on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. You've mentioned before in other interviews that, you know, this need to create, this need to make the music that you do it because when you got into the game, you didn't really hear anything that was speaking to you the way that you want to speak, you know, through your music. Throughout your career, has it been therapeutic? Has it changed you, like being able to kind of get these different albums, these different ideas out?
Yeah, I mean, if I really stop and think about it, like it's kind of crazy that I'm even here doing this at all. You know, it's definitely not something I was destined for. It's not something that I was immediately super talented at. But somehow the right things have worked, and I've placed my energies in the right places or whatever. The stars aligned, and somehow I've ended up in this fucking spot. And it's bizarre to think about. I don't know. I'm just grateful that I even have an opportunity to be an artist and to even speak to people in an era where I feel like most people feel extremely unheard and anonymous, and they're surrounded by all these people that seem famous that are like these big mirages, you know. But back to what you were saying at the beginning, I did make the balancing act because I wanted to hear something. I wanted to hear a kind of rap album that didn't exist, and like there were certain songs or certain artists that at times touched on things that related to whatever like albatross I had in me, but I was like, I wanted to make one that was all that was just, it's called a balancing act ironically because it's a very imbalanced album. It's super fucking heavy and dark.
Yeah,
it's like
but I mean that's really awesome for the need to create again. And that brings me to the question I get to on this show all the time. You've now created quite the body of work, and like I've said a couple times, you know, each of your albums pulls on different emotional threads, has a lot of imagery, has a lot of, you know, I don't know, just push and pull to them, and you've put your mark on this world. What fuels you to keep going, to keep writing, and to keep, you know, putting music out into the world? What fuels you to do that?
Legacy. I want to, everything's ephemeral, not going to be here forever. And it's a super narcissistic and selfish way to see it, but it's like I just want to leave something behind that has some value. And it's like I have an opportunity to keep adding to that. And I almost like, and that's why I take every song very seriously. I take every album even more seriously, because it's like, it's a representation. It'll always be the reflection of how I'm viewed or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. I hold it so close. So like I'll zoom in and out, and I'll zoom in all the way into a line on a song, but then it's like, okay, here's a song, here's a representation, but here's an album. You can't really know how the song works until you hear the whole album. Okay, but then eventually when you get enough albums, it's gonna be like, well, you don't really know how the discography works until you hear all the albums and all this, and it's like it's just gonna get deeper and deeper over time if I hopefully, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then one day I just want to go, okay, this is it. I'm done. The statue's over, and go make movies or disappear in the woods or something.
Oh man, you keep saying it, and I really hope you do make movies someday. I can't wait. Like just hearing some of the stuff that comes out of your brain with your lyrics, like to be able to see that visually would be.
Yeah, I've gotten to direct some of my videos, but it's just like that's just enough to like whet the appetite. You know, I want to make like I have some ideas, but I just got to get the right resources. But I think it'll. Eventually.
That's awesome. What on the musical process, what's your favorite part? Is it writing? Is it recording? Is it performing?
It's tough because every part of the process I love and hate. Again, I know that's really broad, but it's like every part is I feel so critical. But that's also the point. That's why it reaches a point that it does, is because I just terrorize it until it like finally makes its way through my like criticism obstacles. But like, but I definitely think the writing part is probably the one I get the most out of. I don't know if I want to say spiritually, but like, it's the one that like, that's the part that probably keeps me coming back the most.
That's really cool. And I mean, I wouldn't worry.
It's working. Sometimes it might only be like 5% of the time, or the right circuits are firing. It's like I can write forever. You know, I've written pretty much every day for like 18 years. So I have piles of notebooks. I could write okay rap songs in my sleep. But like the stuff I really like, the moments that feel like I'm onto something. You know, sometimes those moments are sparse, but when you get them, it's such a high, and it just feels fulfilling in a way that other things don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to how hard you work on the material that you create, because I think it resonates with your fans and people who are maybe even just discovering you for the first time or have been listening to you since the beginning. Do you kind of get that sense when you perform and you're out there with your fans and stuff?
Yeah. On the writing side, I think there's kind of a mutual respect between my listenership and myself. So when I'm writing songs, I write them for myself. And I mean, I know people are going to hear it. I hope they enjoy it, of course. But overall, I'm trying to meet my own standards, and I treat my audience. I decided very early on that I'm going to treat my audience like they're smart, or they're smarter than me, as smart as me or smarter. You know, I'm always treat them like that. And so sometimes I'll throw in obscure references. Sometimes I'll throw in super lowbrow, like stupid references that I enjoy, or whatever the fuck it is. So I just kind of decided not to consider the audience so much that I like try to cater to what they may or may not be interested in, right? Mm-hmm. At the same time, I feel like my audience shows me a lot of respect by they really give me the benefit of the doubt on things, and they like to dig into my lyrics. They like to find hidden things and Easter eggs. And sometimes they're really onto things. Sometimes they find things that I had no intention of doing, you know, because they're just being too smart. But it's cool.
Yeah.
It's fun. I like hiding clues. I like putting little patterns in things, and I think some people seem to get a kick out of searching for them.
Oh, that's a testament to the work that you're putting in, and I think that's really rad.
It's just more fun hiding little things, you know. It's like all my heroes did that. Like all the people that I thought were the best ones did that. So
that's awesome. I noticed recently. This was just a random question. I noticed recently you tweeted out that you'd really like to make a song with a female rapper.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody in mind?
I don't know. That's kind of why I just threw it out on Twitter, because I've known that I want to make a song with the female rapper. I don't even know what the right term is for that anymore. It keeps changing.
Right.
But I remember it was like FemC. It was FemC for a long time.
I remember that too, and that's just so
it's like-
weird.
Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't want to be called that. It sounds annoying. But yeah, I actually just tweeted that just to see what people said. But there's definitely a handful of girls, women that I would like to rap with. But this girl named China, a couple people tagged her, and I hadn't heard of her before, and I checked her out, and she was pretty dope. I don't know. Tierra Whack's really dope.
Yeah. Well, I hope it happens.
Yeah, it could be cool. I mean, I've definitely made music with women before, of course, but they're always in singing roles and or in videos or things like that. It would be cool to have someone more on a rappy vibe.
Yeah, and I think it would, like, you obviously finding the right person, I think it would be a really cool fit.
Yeah, I want like the right kind of like flexiness, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So, Haunted Gardens is coming out April 20th. Can't wait for everybody to hear this record. And what are the plans for the rest of the year? Are you going to go on tour for it?
Yeah, I'm going to follow it with the tour.
Excellent. Is it going to be most of North America, or?
Yeah, it'll be the whole country. So I don't know if I'll do Canada yet, but I'm doing Seattle to San Diego to New York to Tampa, everything between.
Excellent.
And then I don't know, just keep my head low, making more music, and hope something comes along where I really want to play Europe and Canada and Australia. Yeah. I'd like to. I owe the UK a show so bad. I've never played the UK, and I'm getting kind of tired of apologizing in emails. So.
Oh, it's coming then.
Yeah, we'll see.
So
where are you located?
We're in upstate New York. So if you come around here, you'll have some fans.
I'm going to be I think I'm playing Syracuse.
Oh, perfect. That's like a couple hours away from us.
Cool.
Excellent. For our listeners and viewers, what's the best way for them to follow your journey, whether it's social media or website? What's the best way to follow you?
Yeah, we're all little minions to the social media devils. So yeah, you know, all the usual suspects: Instagram, Twitter, just Spotify. Just check the music out, see if any of the words resonate with you. You know, that's all you can really ask.
Excellent.
If it matters to you, you'll find me.
Yeah. No, that's good. I can't thank you enough for taking time to talk with me on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.